Matt Armstrong just dropped a video that's going to be talked about for a long time, and I need to break it down for you because this isn't a normal rebuild episode. This is the video where the story around his Bugatti Veyron changes completely. A car that Bugatti practically wrote off, a car the factory wouldn't even discuss on the phone, has now been driven thousands of miles across Europe by a self-taught mechanic working out of his own garage. And somewhere along that drive, the video stops being about a car at all. It becomes about the company that built it. Here's what's coming: a 40-quid fix that solved a problem Bugatti wanted £4,500 to solve, an eerily empty visit to the Bugatti factory itself, a full breakdown high in the Swiss Alps, a run-in with Swiss police, a friend's Lamborghini left broken on the roadside, and a finish in Monaco so big it stopped traffic outside the casino. By the end, I'll get into what this means for Matt's ongoing feud with the hypercar establishment, and why this particular video hits differently. The video opens with the Veyron parked in Matt's workshop, exactly where it's been sitting for weeks. The issue was a fuel control module that had failed, so the engine would fire up and instantly die. After weeks of trying to get anyone at Bugatti to actually engage with him, they finally agreed to sell him the part, £4,500 for one electronic module. Non-returnable, no exceptions. He fitted it. The car did exactly the same thing. Started, died over and over. $4,500 spent on a part that changed nothing. That's when Matt's actual skill takes over. Instead of throwing more parts at the problem, he started diagnosing it properly. He found fuel pressure on one bank of the engine dropping straight to zero, so he pulled the pressure sensors from behind the rear quarter panel and swapped them side to side to chase the fault. No change. He checked vacuum lines. He checked wiring. Eventually, he and his father dropped the fuel tank and found the real cause. A small rubber hose inside the tank, sitting in petrol for 20 years, had rotted into what Matt called goo. Fuel was leaking out through it before the system could ever build pressure. The fix was a 40-quid length of submersible fuel hose from a local supplier. 40 quid. That's the point Matt has been making for years. A Veyron isn't some unknowable machine locked behind a curtain of factory secrecy. It's a car. It has hoses that perish and sensors that fail, and those things can be diagnosed the same way you diagnose any car, with patience and logic. That £4,500 module was never the actual problem. Bugatti sold him a part without knowing if it would even work, then refused to take it back when it didn't. To be fair to Bugatti, there's a reasonable explanation for why the hose failed. The UK now sells E10 fuel with 10% ethanol, but the Veyron was built in 2006, long before that fuel existed. Ethanol degrades rubber over time, and Matt suspects a previous owner ran cheaper E10 instead of the recommended E5, slowly breaking down that internal hose. So this particular failure wasn't corporate greed, it was old materials meeting modern fuel chemistry. But the wider point still holds. Even the most expensive car on the planet runs into the same basic physics as everything else, and fixing that doesn't require a factory. It requires understanding. With the car finally running right, Matt made the call that shifts the whole tone of the video. He was driving it to Monaco. Not on a trailer. Through France, through Switzerland, straight into Monte Carlo. Thousands of miles in a 20-year-old hypercar that had barely moved under its own power in years. Along the way, he planned to stop at Molsheim, the actual Bugatti factory, the place that had refused to answer his calls. The trip started with fuel stops that became a running joke fast. The Veyron was returning around 13 miles per gallon, and Matt had already spent over £200 on fuel before reaching the Channel Tunnel. But the car ran flawlessly, eating up motorway miles with the effortless shove only a W16 delivers. For the first time since he'd bought it, Matt was finally experiencing the Veyron as it was built to be experienced. Not a project, not a problem, but a grand tourer crossing borders. Then came the moment that actually surprised me. They pulled up to the Bugatti factory on a weekday afternoon, and the place was dead. Not just closed, abandoned looking. A few cars sat in the staff car park. The Heritage building looked derelict. The museum that was supposed to be open had nobody in it. No staff, no visitors, no security. Matt stood outside the gates of the most exclusive hypercar manufacturer on Earth, a man who just rebuilt one of their cars with his own hands, and there was genuinely no one there to talk to. This is where the video turns into something sharper than a road trip. Bugatti has spent years building an image of total exclusivity. Only the factory touches these cars, parts and service cost whatever they decide, and independent mechanics are shut out entirely. Yet when one of their own cars actually came home, driven by the man who's become the face of independent Veyron repair, the factory was a ghost town. Matt compared it to Ferrari and Lamborghini, brands with museums and factory tours that make owners feel like part of something. Bugatti, he realized, isn't interested in that. They want customers wealthy enough to never need to interact with the brand at all. The idea of someone driving their Veyron across a continent just to connect with where it was born doesn't seem to register in Bugatti's world. Standing in that empty car park, Matt seemed to finally accept he was never going to be welcomed in, and that he was okay with that. The trip continued into Switzerland, and the mountain roads gave the Veyron its toughest test yet. Climbing high into the Alps, warning lights flooded the dash. Brake light, headlights, EPC, engine, and then the gearbox stopped responding completely. Matt was stuck 2,500 meters up a Swiss mountain, unable to select a gear. True to form, the fix was pure Matt Armstrong. His diagnostic tool flagged a fault with the brake light switch, meaning the car couldn't tell whether the brake pedal was pressed, so it wouldn't shift. He got under the dash, found the switch physically jammed, freed it with a twist, and the car came back to life instantly. A stuck brake switch, that's what stopped a 16-cylinder, quad-turbo hypercar dead on a mountain. Matt laughed it off, but it proves his point. These cars aren't fragile or mysterious. They share basic components with everything else on the road, and someone with the right mindset can fix them roadside. The drama didn't stop there. While Matt sorted the brake switch, his friend's Lamborghini Murcielago developed a serious fuel leak, pouring fuel out from underneath the car every time the ignition turned over, a real fire risk. They had to leave it at a Swiss garage and press on toward Monaco without him. It's a telling parallel. Another 20-year-old supercar taken down by the same combination of aging rubber and modern fuel. These cars aren't unreliable because they're badly built. They're unreliable because they're old, and old cars need upkeep. Matt had already done his. The Murcielago hadn't. Then there was the pink Audi R8, driven by Matt's friend Liam, adding its own chaos. Swiss police pulled him over, apparently unimpressed by loud exhausts and bright paint, issued a fine of around £250, and searched the car for evidence the exhaust was illegal. A reminder that touring Europe in modified cars doesn't always go smoothly. Matt and the Veyron pushed on regardless, and the final stretch into Monaco turned into a genuine victory lap. After every setback and every doubter, Matt Armstrong drove a Bugatti Veyron into Monte Carlo, and the reception was massive. Crowds surrounded the car outside the casino, pulling more attention than anything else on the street. Watching people react to it, you could see exactly why he'd done all of this. Not for views, not for money, but for that moment when a broken, abandoned project becomes a source of joy for everyone watching. And in keeping with channel tradition, Matt took what money he had left to the casino. He'd worked out the return trip's fuel bill at over £2,000, put it all on black, and won. Doubled his money. Fuel covered. Trip complete. But the most important line in the whole video comes almost as an afterthought right at the end. Matt says the story between him and Bugatti is far from finished. This video is just one chapter. The empty factory, the 40-quid fix, the wasted module, the drive across Europe. It's all building toward something bigger. He's proven the Veyron can be fixed by independent hands and driven across a continent without a shred of factory support. And Bugatti's silence, symbolized by that empty car park, is starting to say more than any official statement could. This isn't really a road trip video. It's closer to a manifesto, a statement that the era of manufacturer control is ending, that owners don't need a factory stamp to enjoy their own cars, and that the knowledge to keep these machines running was never locked away in some vault in Molsheim. It's available to anyone with the patience to learn and the willingness to share what they find. Matt Armstrong didn't just fix a Bugatti. He punctured a myth that's kept owners trapped in fear and expense for 2 decades, with a 40-quid hose, a stuck brake switch, and a tank full of very expensive petrol. The road trip is over. The war isn't. And Matt Armstrong is just getting started.